Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
And my name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, I have a question, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Cool. I'm doing pretty good. A little busy at work. I had to work a little mandatory overtime this week, but
Oh, sure.
it happens.
It's, overtime is, it's working. It's money.
Yeah. I'll never say no to the money, but whenever it's optional, I don't take it.
Yeah.
The money is nice, but I don't need it, and I would my time off is getting to be much more valuable to me these days.
Sure. Yeah. You got lots of stuff to work on. The podcast for one, and many other things. I see you have a new addition to your to our office.
Yes,
space here.
Yes, I do. I have a new chair.
Yeah, it's a nice one.
It is an AK Racing gaming chair,
and it's very red.
It is very red. I will put up a picture, possibly of my chair, possibly of just maybe from their website. I don't know, but it looks so nice. It's so red. I love it.
You should take a picture of it with in the office. You can maybe spruce up the desk how you wish, but
I suppose
put it on the Patreon or something.
Yeah, I could do that. I haven't really been putting much on the Patreon that isn't patron only.
Sure.
I mean, I guess that's kind of what it's for, but
yeah. I mean,
speaking of the Patreon, there's something I want to bring up. I made a little bit of a mistake. I keep goofing so many things these last few weeks.
Hey, but you're bringing it up.
I am bringing it up, and I think that people will be glad that I made this goof. So as it was, I put up outtakes on our Patreon, like little bits that I cut out of previous episodes. We don't really have a ton of outtakes,
sure,
but when we started the Patreon, we had like 50 episodes worth of like, oh, here's a minute where we were talking about going to a casino, or here's a minute where we're talking about like eating at McDonald's or something like that.
Yeah, like our tangents and stuff.
Exactly.
Like that.
So a lot of those I cut out. You thought we went on a lot of tangents in the episode. There's even more tangents off the episode. So I've been going through just, every couple weeks I'll put up like a few little bits here and there. Well, for some reason, when I first started posting the outtakes, I thought that they were on the $1 tier. They're actually on the $5 tier. So I've been posting these outtakes on the $1 tier this whole time. And that just occurred to me a couple days ago. And I don't want anybody who is on a higher tier to feel like they're getting like cheated, I guess. Because, not that I doubt this is the case, but it's plausible that someone might have chosen the $5 tier specifically because, that's the tier that gets the outtakes. Like,
right, yeah,
if that's... You don't get on the $1 tier, so if I move up to $5, I'll get that. So I don't want anybody to feel like
they've been wasting $4.
Like they've been, I guess. Again, I don't think that is going to be the case for anybody, but just to be safe, I put up a little poll asking whether I should take off, like make it so that the $1 tier people can no longer see those and then never put them on $1 again. Or possibly second option was just not do it anymore, but the ones that are already on the $1 tier can stay there.
Sure.
Then third option was make that a $1 tier reward and then come up with something else to be a $5 tier reward.
Yeah, all right.
And I liked that option the most. That is the one that the most people responded to. I think one person did say just don't do it anymore, but leave the ones that are there. So I think here's what I'm going to do instead. So that's going to be a $1 tier reward.
Okay.
So I'm going to change that in the, by the time this episode goes out, I will have changed that in the rewards. And then for the $5 tier, I'm going to a couple times a month. I'm going to say twice a month, maybe a little more often, maybe a little less often. I'm going to record a short, like 5 or 10 minute, just kind of like update. Like, hey, this is some movies I've watched since the last time I did one of these. These are some games I've played. These are some ideas I had for the podcast. These are, just some things that are going on that people might be interested to hear.
Sure. A little bit more of an insider's look.
Kind of, yeah.
So like $1, you get a little, you get our little outtakes and, and that like a couple little extra things. And then, $5, you get an insider's look in a way.
Sure.
I guess. And then I guess at the $10 one, you're actually interacting with us.
Yeah, directly with us.
More directly. So in that way, you could. I mean, not that
Not that it's hard to interact with us to begin with.
Exactly. I mean, like we're always asking you guys to email us and send us like questions and stuff like that, which, if you want to do that, InterPartyConflict@gmail.com.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what our show is. It is almost entirely stuff submitted by, it is 70% stuff submitted by listeners and then 30% tangents from gays.
Sure.
Oh, I just remembered there was one other thing I wanted to talk about. It's just a little thing. Do you remember the game Hero Quest?
Hero Quest. Oh, I don't know if I do.
It was a board game from like, I don't know, the 80s or something like that very much looks like D&D and kind of plays like D&D. Jay had a copy of it.
Okay.
We used the minis and some of the little like props in Jay's game. So basically it's a board game where you build these like little, there are plastic minis, then they're like, you build these little cardboard and plastic, like, oh, here's like an altar, here's a bookcase, here's a door. And then the board is just kind of like a big map grid with like certain sections marked off, and then it comes with like a book of scenarios. It's basically a book of short little D&D adventures.
Gotcha.
You have a character sheet. There's like 4 different characters to choose from, and then you choose a scenario, and then you play through those scenarios as your characters. It's totally like D&D. Well, anyway, my wife Lisa found a copy of that looks to be 100% intact at a rummage sale. Basically,
cool.
Somebody dropped it off at the library and she got it from the
nice
little sale they do there. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I imagine I'll probably try to find a time for us to play it.
Sure, yeah.
Once or twice. But, I can use the minis at the very least.
Right. It's not sealed or anything?
No, it wasn't sealed, but the board is in great condition.
Cool.
I haven't gone to count everything, but it looks like all the minis are there. A few of the little like props, like the little doors and bookcases and stuff, are a little bent. That makes sense because it's all cardboard and it's just kind of tossed in the box.
Yeah.
And it also comes with one of the expansions because the game had several expansions.
Nice.
So it's pretty awesome. Like I'm really really proud that she found that.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. I think I'm vaguely remembering what this looks like, but
I had it here in the room earlier, but I guess I must have taken it downstairs.
That's fine. I'll probably
I'll put a picture of it in the show notes or something.
Nice. Maybe we'll even. This is again when having to do with not having enough time, but we'll even we could even record ourselves playing it or something. So
yeah, maybe maybe that could be a reward. That could be a goal for our Patreon. If we get like $150 a month, we'll do that.
We'll start doing stuff like that.
Yeah. Time is really the big factor here. When I said like I'll start doing these little just like 5 or 10 minute things. The only reason that I thought that would be a good idea is because I spend 5 or 10 minutes getting the outtakes together. Like that's enough time. I'm willing to put in 5 or 10 minutes doing something. So if it's just me sitting in front of a mic saying, hey, I did this week, I played this game, I watched this movie, I listened to this podcast, I can do that. I can set aside a few minutes every couple of weeks. All right. So you want to go ahead and get into the episode?
Sure.
Cool. Now, Jeff, I want you to imagine that you have purchased a house.
Oh, cool.
So you and your fiance, you come into some money, so you decide to put it on a down payment on a house.
Awesome.
You pick out this house. It's like the greatest house ever. It's so nice, but it's surprisingly inexpensive. So you go and you buy it. You sign the next 20 years of your life away or whatever people do for mortgages. Mine's hopefully only going to be 5 or 6 years. But you get moved into this house. Everything's going really well. But then you notice it's a little strange things start happening.
Okay.
First, you notice there are random and unexplained fires. Hey, you can deal with a strange fire every now and then. Oh, that corner of the house just burst into flame. Oh, whoops. Oh, well.
What is this? The Sims?
What? It is not The Sims. It's not The Sims. But then you notice, oh, that's weird. There's a gold coin under this chair. Uh-huh. And then one day you're watching TV and it goes to static and you get really close to the screen. You don't even know why they're static because modern TVs don't have static, but you get really close to the screen and you can see a group of adventurers charging towards you. Oh. And so you run out of the house terrified. Oh, you run out, you call your local guild master. Your local guild master comes and he looks at the house and he says, okay, Jeff, I think I know what the problem is here.
What?
Your house was built on an ancient Dragon's Horde.
Okay. I got you.
See, I hate myself for doing this because the more elaborate I get, the more elaborate they all have to be.
Right. Okay.
I've even off the mic, I've even had an idea for one that I think would be a lot of fun to do, but it would be so elaborate and so involved that I feel like there would be no coming. I would have to do. I couldn't. There'd be no coming back from that.
Well, we'd have to like announce it as a special occasion.
I guess. So I think. Yeah, I think
save it for
a special occasion,
for like a holiday or something.
Maybe. Although, as of this recording, Game Master Day was 2 days ago. I think.
Is that a thing? I didn't.
Apparently, that's a thing. I mean, I saw somebody post about it on Facebook. I think I saw one person post about it on Twitter. But that's it. I didn't see it anywhere else.
Who establishes that?
I don't know.
I mean, because like if it's a something day, then it's established by some company to make money off of it. But
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
I mean, like if it's Wizards, I mean, fine. But
what if like it wasn't Wizards the company? What if it was just Wizards?
It's just Wizards.
Wizards did it.
Just Wizards did it.
Yes. Sorry. So anyway, sorry, I had. Here we go. Anyway, our magic item today for the Dragon's Horde was submitted by Jason Simmons via email. And this item, he submitted this idea for an item. It was a pretty simple idea. It wasn't really like formatted or fleshed out or anything. And then he gave me permission to like flesh it out a little bit and just kind of like make it, zhuzh it up a little bit.
Gotcha.
I don't know how you'd spell such a word, but I that's what I did.
No, like I use the word zhuzh pretty regularly. It's a word. I don't know how to spell it either. Zhuzh. Is there an X in there?
Zhuzh.
ZH.
That's
zhuzh.
That's how something like that.
Or like zh.
I don't know. Oh. Anyway. So
wait, how do you spell je ne sais quoi?
Do you actually want to know?
I don't know.
It is JE space NE space SAIS space QUOI.
What is je ne sais quoi?
I don't know. It means I don't know what.
I don't know what.
Yeah.
But I was thinking like the je in the je ne sais quoi could be, so it might be.
I guess
that's how you spell zhuzh.
Yeah, that would be. I don't know. I don't think it's a French word. Okay. I guess is what I'm getting at here.
Well, my fiance and I use it in the kitchen a lot. She'll zhuzh it up. So so like we eat very like basic meals, which is like mac and cheese or spaghetti or whatever.
Yeah.
But she'll like zhuzh it up and like make it really nice. I'll throw some like onions or something in there.
Well, there you go.
Sorry,
well, you would not want to zhuzh it up with this item here because I think it would mess with the flavor.
Okay.
This item is called the Rosetta Stone.
Oh.
This hand-sized chunk of stone is etched with words of many languages, all intertwined with subtle magic. Said to be remnants of an ancient civilization, these stones grant understanding of various languages to the holder. Each stone contains the knowledge of one specific language chosen by the creator, who must know the language when creating the stone. Now, I decided that there would be two different versions of this stone.
Okay.
There is a lesser Rosetta Stone. While attuned, a lesser Rosetta Stone grants its owner fluency in the stone's given language for as long as the owner remains attuned. So basically, even if you don't have this stone on your person, as long as you are attuned to the stone, you know that language. So if you find one that is attuned to, or the stone is a Rosetta Stone of Elven.
Okay.
While you're attuned to it, you have to use up one of your like attunement slots because you can only be attuned to a certain number of items at a time.
Sure.
But you are proficient in that language as long as you're attuned. And then whenever you want to, you can give it to somebody else and then they can use it. But then there's the greater Rosetta Stone. If a character spends an action and touches a greater Rosetta Stone to their forehead, they permanently become fluent in the given language and the stone crumbles to dust.
Ooh.
So with this one, it is a consumable.
Right.
However, it just instantly makes you proficient in a language.
Oh, cool.
And, I wouldn't imagine these being super expensive. Because, languages, how often do languages come up? Even if you were to get a whole bunch of the greater ones and just become proficient in everything. So what? You can do the same thing with, you can understand all languages with a first level spell.
Yeah.
And then tongues, I want to say, is like a third or fourth level spell. And that lets you read, write, speak, everything.
Right,
everything out there. So I don't think they're super powerful.
Right, yeah.
but it would give you the reason that Jason sent this in was he said that it would let you put in a language into the adventure that is vital for getting through the adventure.
Right.
And then even if the players don't know it, there's still a way for them to learn it.
Yeah.
Within the time frame.
Right. Yeah. That makes for a good good adventure design. If you're that way, your characters won't get stuck or anything like that.
Yeah.
Actually, making me think of playing. I've been playing adventure games a lot, and like one of the things that they try to do is make sure that you don't get stuck.
Yeah.
So it's like if you're ever stuck on a puzzle and none of the items that you have work for it, there has to be a way for you to solve it. At least in newer games.
Yeah.
Older games, not so much.
Yeah, older games, you get stuck all the time.
But in newer games, like it's like, okay, like I'm missing something, and it's not because like I didn't miss something and I won't be able to solve it. It's just I have to go back and look around and find the thing. So like this kind of works in that way where if there's somebody that like some script that your players need to figure out. And like they might not have like the spell means, or they might not have like the checks to figure it out. Yeah. I don't know if there's like a decipher script check or something. I guess it would just be like history or arcana.
It would probably be history or arcana. There did used to be a decipher script skill, but not anymore.
But at least this way, it's something easy like they can find, and then you can bring it up later on too. It's like, okay, now they have access to this language.
Sure.
It made me think, because obviously this is based on the real Rosetta Stone.
Correct. Yeah.
Which was is basically a stone with a bunch of different scripts translated, in different languages.
There was it was hieroglyphics and specifically.
Yeah.
It has like a big section that's all hieroglyphics, then a section that was like slightly less complicated hieroglyphics, and then in Greek, I think
it was like ancient Greek.
Yes, and since they figured out that it was the same passage in all three languages,
right?
So that is why people were able to decipher hieroglyphics, which till that point nobody could decipher at all.
Yeah, it was basically a hieroglyphic to Greek dictionary.
Exactly,
in a way, but not exactly. But it was a way to be like, okay, this turns into this. Oh, okay, so this symbol must mean something along this line.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be cool to have, instead of like a thing. Instead of having something that like teaches you a language, it's like a stone that when held between two people speaking different languages.
Ooh.
Well, when you speak your language on their side of the stone, words get like carved into it.
Yeah.
In their native language, and then vice versa.
That's even cooler. Hey Jeff, let's re-record this section. No, that's a really cool idea.
So it's just like a stone, and like again, it's not like super powerful, especially in that case, because you're not translating the word vocally. It's more just
you're just letting two people communicate.
Yeah. So like if it's be like a little like tablet, or like
yes,
Google Translate.
A tablet in multiple definitions.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
I have seen the Rosetta Stone in person.
Oh yeah.
It is in the museum, one of the museums in London.
How big is it?
It's pretty big. I mean, it's I want to say it's like 3 or 4 feet tall.
Okay. All right.
It's pretty cool. It's just this big hunk of stone.
Yeah, it's like you go in the museum and it's actually just like the yellow like software box for Rosetta Stone's like language software.
Yeah,
it's like, here it is.
Yep.
It's like, wow, wow, okay.
I guess that makes sense why they call it that.
Huh.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for the Dragon's Hoard. If anybody wanted to submit items for us to talk about on the Dragon's Hoard, or questions for us to discuss, or stories for the funeral pyre at the end of the episode, how would they do so?
They could send us an email at InterPartyConflict@gmail.com.
Yes. Now, before we get into the episode, we have a winner of Goblin Stone's adventure, Chapel on the Cliffs.
Oh, yeah.
For anybody who is not familiar with this section here, there's a content creator called Goblin Stone. They make adventures for D&D 5th edition, and they made this adventure, Chapel on the Cliffs. If you would like to be entered into the drawing, every episode we're going to be giving out a copy of this adventure. So if you want to be entered, just send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. with Chapel on the Cliffs in the subject line. And our winner this week is Seth M. Whoa, winner! Gobble, gobble, gobble. Woo! So congratulations, Seth M. You should be getting an email within the next day or two from Benoit at Goblinstone. If you don't get it, send me an email. We've had a couple people have actually sent me an email saying like they didn't get theirs. Always check your spam folder.
Sure.
Because I believe it is sent through some sort of like Benoit sends it through an automated something or other.
Yeah.
So if you don't get it, that's fine. Just email me if you can't find it. I always get a copy of every email too whenever he sends it out. So if you don't get it, I've got a copy of the link to send you. So
yeah, he's probably sending it through something like Gumroad or something where it's
probably
like,
something
it's
like
like a newsletter sort of website. So like your email might read it as spam.
Yeah. So if you like Chapel on the Cliffs, or I suppose even if you don't like Chapel on the Cliffs, just let them know. Go to goblinstone.com. Send them an email, send them a review.
Yeah.
I think they maybe like review them on, I think you actually get the adventure through Drive-Thru RPG. So maybe leave a review on there. Leave a review because, hey,
yeah, it's feedback.
It's feedback and it gets more people interested in the product, more people aware of the product. So yeah, congratulations, Seth M. And like I said earlier, if anybody else wants to enter the drawing, just send us an email with Chapel on the Cliffs in the subject line. Okay, and I just want to remind everybody that we do have a Patreon, as I mentioned earlier. Our Patreon will be, by the time this episode goes out, we'll have some slight changes to the rewards in your favor. You'll be getting more stuff from being a patron. So go to patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. We've got some good rewards on there. If you like any of them, if you can spare even $1 a month, it'll help us out, and then you'll get some cool stuff in return. And I want to tell everybody to go to critacademy.com. Check out Crit Academy. It's a great podcast. They're going to be doing a panel at an anime convention in Lansing, Michigan, in a couple, maybe like a week and a half after this episode comes out.
Yeah,
it's called Shudokan. So on March 24th, 2018, they will be doing a panel there. I'm going to try to make it to that. I don't know if I'll. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I'll be able to get the time off work, but if I can't, then I won't.
Right.
But that should be a lot of fun if anybody happens to be in the Lansing area or can make it to the Lansing area.
Yeah, go and check them out.
Go check them out. Also check out D&D Character Lab. They are another member of the Crit Nation Fellowship. They're a great podcast. They make characters and then pit them against each other. They actually just started a Patreon.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm a member. I actually didn't even really look over the rewards. I just, I want to support them. So
right, yeah,
I
for sure.
Toss them a few bucks. So yeah, check them out. They're a lot of fun.
Awesome.
All right. You want to get into some questions?
Yeah, let's do that. Cool. All right. Our first question comes from Percentus. This was on Reddit. How much do you reference the books when building NPCs?
Yeah, if I had to give a very simple answer for this, it would be almost none.
Okay.
I mean, when I build NPCs, I guess it is mostly I look at what I need the NPC to do, and then I kind of just like flesh them out on a sheet of paper, personality-wise, as far as that goes. Yeah. Stat-wise, I don't really build NPCs stat-wise. Okay. Like if it's going to be an NPC that they're going to fight, I will most likely just kind of like just either pick a monster from the book that kind of fulfills the role that I want that NPC to fill in combat. Okay. And then reflavor it as the NPC. Sure. So I guess in a way that is referencing the books, but I also, a lot of the time, I won't even really give an NPC a full stat block. I'll just kind of be like, well, okay, if they're going to fight, if a fight breaks out or something, I want them to be relatively hard to hit. So I might, give them 18 AC or something like that. Or, I'll pretty much just give them like an AC, an attack bonus, and then decide their hit points and damage when we get there. Sure. Because like, I don't know if I want them, I won't really know how beefy I want them to be in combat until we get to that point. But at the same time, I tend to freeform a lot of this stuff. Like a lot of what I do is on the fly because every time I prepare, the more I prepare, the less the players stick to it. That's a good point. I would say that I'd probably want to use the books a lot. I would basically try to make them in like their own individual characters, like using like full character creation, which I mean, like I like making characters, but then I guess if depending on how many NPCs I'm trying to throw in this adventure, or it could just be an NPC that you need to grab out of nowhere because like they went into a building you weren't expecting them to. Sure. Like I was like, oh, okay, that's a
that's an inn. All right, so it needs an innkeeper. Okay, it's like you'd have to come up with something on the fly then.
Yeah. Or they choose to attack some guards. This is Sleepy Gary, the town guard.
The town guard, yeah. Like, oh, Sleepy Gary.
Yes. I actually just watched that episode again the other day. It's a good episode. This actually makes me think of something. I didn't intend for this when we were looking at questions for this episode, but there's something about NPCs that I want to address if I could.
Sure.
A lot of people, I see a lot of discussion about when players, when a DM is going to either allow or disallow a certain ability that might be really powerful or something like that.
Okay.
A lot of the time I see people reference the idea, if the players can do it, the enemies can do it too.
Sure.
A lot of the time this is referenced in like if there's a class ability that's really powerful, or if with something like called shots, like, oh, sure, I'll let the players use called shots, even though called shots are could kind of break the game, because if the players want to do it, that means the enemies can do it too.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people think that makes it okay. Whether it's okay or not, that's not the deciding factor of whether it should be okay. Players, PCs, and NPCs do not serve the same role in a role-playing game, nor are they intended to.
Mm.
In 3rd edition, a lot of the time, NPCs were built the same way PCs were, and there were a lot of things where it's like this: if a player can get this ability, an NPC can get that ability, and vice versa. However, approaching the game with that attitude kind of undermines the purpose of NPCs. Things that affect a PC one way are not going to affect an NPC the same way, and the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Let me bring called shots back into the example, because we talked about this when we brought up called shots.
Yeah.
When I've talked about crit fumbles. NPCs are not intended to stick around. Generally speaking, monsters in combat, NPCs in combat aren't intended to be there for more than one combat.
Right, yeah.
There are exceptions, of course,
mm-hmm.
but by and large, the vast majority of NPCs are not going to be affected by anything that lasts longer than one combat.
Yeah, because even if you intend that NPC to survive more than one combat, the players rarely let that happen.
Exactly.
Like an NPC or a monster or something running away from battle is basically signing a death warrant.
Yes.
Like they're going to hunt that. At least one player is going to hunt that thing down to the ends of the earth.
Yeah.
In that same combat.
Exactly. Yeah. Let me ask you a question, Jeff. If you give a monster an ability that is usable once every 10 minutes, is that any different than giving them that same ability, but it's usable once per hour, or once per day,
right,
or once ever?
Yeah. So okay. So yeah, like in that case, no, there is no difference, because you're just going to use it in that same combat, and
right.
But it's also that same ability is very different to a player than it is to an NPC, because an NPC is just going to use it.
Yeah, because if they don't use it, they will never get to use it.
Right, because they're just going to die anywhere, because they're an enemy NPC.
Yeah.
But a player, if you give them a thing that they can only use once a day,
mm-hmm.
like they might not use it. They might not use it because they're afraid to use it, because maybe the next fight will be harder, and they need that ability and that sort of thing.
Yeah, like they might need it later. There is no later for 95% of the NPCs or monsters you put in your game.
Right, yeah.
And so like if you give a monster an ability that is once per 10 minutes, it might as well be once per lifetime.
Right, sure.
Because there isn't going to be, generally speaking, there's not going to be another 10 minutes.
Yeah. And this is speaking more like enemy NPCs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, but it does apply to non-enemy NPCs too. Like, there still might be combat, and those NPCs might need to do something.
Right. So I just want to say, like, because a lot of people have that attitude of like, well, if the players can do it, the NPCs can do it too. Sorry, just another thing about like monsters and NPCs. Monsters and NPCs aren't, in addition to the fact that they're not really intended to be there for a long time, PCs, if you had the players encounter a group of NPCs that were all statted out exactly like players of the same level, that encounter would not feel like a normal encounter in any way at all. Like, it would not feel like an encounter of the equivalent level with monsters. because monsters generally have a lot more hit points than players.
Okay.
And deal a lot less damage than players. Like, monsters aren't meant to deal damage. They're meant to take damage.
Sure.
Some of them deal damage too, but you won't ever see a monster that has, like, if you have a monster that is the same level as a player is, their damage output is not going to be the same as the player's is.
Yeah.
Their hit points like a 4th level monster, a CR4 monster, is going to have way more hit points than a 4th level character.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah, because it's compensating for like fighting.
There's probably going to be multiple players, and like I said, like the monster is kind of just meant to take damage and then die. Deal a little bit of damage, but mainly use up player resources.
Yeah. On
a meta level, that's kind of what enemies in encounters are meant to do, is use up resources.
Right, yeah.
And so if you think that it's okay for a monster to have the same ability that the player does, I mean, I guess if you want to run it that way, go for it. But the game doesn't do it that way. The game wants monsters to take damage, deal a little bit back, and then you'll have like a big boss monster or whatever that maybe does have higher damage output, but will have an equally inflated amount of hit points. Like a boss is going to have more hit points than the whole party, generally speaking.
Right.
Even if it's 4 players against the boss is probably going to have more than 4 times as many hit points as each individual player.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. I just think it's something that should be kept in mind, that if you are building a monster from scratch or even an NPC from scratch, if you intend there to be combat, you aren't going to just open up he's a fighter, he's a 10th level fighter, and just give him all the stuff that a fighter has, because he's going to die really quickly.
Sure.
And it's going to make the encounter feel weird. Like, when was the last time that is more for our listeners, I guess to you too, Jeff, when was the last time you were in an encounter where there was a healer among the enemies? I mean, I'm sure it happens. It happens.
Yeah.
But it is not standard. Whereas I would say it is standard for a party of players to have a healer and for them to get healed mid-combat.
Right, yeah, that's true.
Because they serve a different role in the game.
Yeah, it's because, well, I mean, it's much simpler for a DM to keep track of like just a few bulky fighters than it is to have like, to actually control, like, imagine trying to control an entire party basically with the characters with like different roles and stuff like that. That'd be a fun, that'd be an interesting encounter if done right. But I mean, like I want to say we've done an encounter like that where it was like basically a party versus another party. And those can be interesting because like you basically have to like figure out what the other party's roles are and deal with them accordingly. Yeah. And
that's another thing, like, player characters have so many more options than NPCs generally do. Generally, an NPC has like 2 or 3 options at any given point.
Right.
Players, however, they've got, the fighter has this ability, he's got this ability, he's got this ability. If he can't use any of those, he's got this magic item he can use. He's got this other thing he can do.
Yeah.
He's got this feat that lets him do this other thing. So yeah, if you were a DM and you were making a party of PCs basically as your encounter, that's going to be so much more complicated, and half the stuff you're not even going to get a chance to use because, again, they're only meant to be there for that one encounter. And so, like, similarly, we talked about this in like the crit fumble episode. If something goes wrong and a monster gets killed in one hit, no big deal.
Yeah,
they died. Okay, they died a couple of rounds earlier. If it's your big boss, I suppose that's going to be a bigger deal. But again, like that was the end goal, was for them to get killed.
Yeah.
If you kill a player character in one hit accidentally through a critical hit or whatever, then not only is that possibly going to affect the rest of the campaign because now that character is dead and maybe they were important to the story, but for the rest of the encounter, that player has to sit there at the table not able to do anything. And that's no fun for the player. Meanwhile, if one of the monsters gets killed, the DM doesn't care because he's got like 4 or 5 other monsters he's still controlling.
Right.
Some DMs probably see it as a relief when a couple of their monsters get killed early because then it's less less brain power they have to devote to the whole enemy party.
And heck, you're the DM. There's another creature behind the door.
Sure,
if
absolutely.
you really wanted them to be fighting 5 guys,
Yeah.
and they killed one too soon.
Yeah, the DM can always bring out more monsters.
Yeah.
The players can't be like, oh, I got killed? Well, here you go. I've got my other character right here ready to go. He was waiting around the corner.
He popped out of the bag of holding.
I mean, that might be a cool way to run a game.
Sure.
Like where if you die, you just whip out another character and you can go. But
everybody's Time Lords.
Sure.
They regenerate
Yes.
and become a different person.
Yeah. And so that could be an interesting way to run a game, but that is far from the norm.
Right.
That's not what people are generally going to expect when they show up to a game.
That'd be actually kind of fun to like have it like if your character dies, like you regenerate like a Time Lord, but you regenerate as like a random class.
Yeah.
But you're then in the equipment of whoever you died as.
That would be pretty cool.
Because they're always like he'll regenerate and turn into a different doctor, but he'll be in the same clothing.
Yeah.
So it'd be funny. It's just like you die as a fighter and you come back as a wizard and you have like a sword and shield and armor and you're like, what? I can't even hold this.
Yeah, I think that would make for a fun that'd make for a fun one shot or something.
Right.
So just when you're going to be building NPC, like I don't think of NPCs the same way I think of PCs.
Sure.
So when I'm making one, I generally just give them the stats and personality that's going to be relevant to the scene that's coming up.
Yeah.
There's no need to stat out an entire NPC if they're only intended to be there for one singular purpose.
Right, yeah.
Now, if you are going to stat out an NPC, if you do want to reference the books, the 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide is great for this. They have charts, they have tables you can roll on to randomly determine stuff about NPCs. You can make something, you can choose like something distinct about their appearance. You can roll and find out, oh, he's got a scar. Or like, oh, he smells kind of bad. Or he's got like an interesting hairstyle or something like that.
Doesn't Xanathar's Guide have like a thing on there too?
I think it does. I'm pretty sure Xanathar's Guide has everything.
Right. Well,
no pun intended, I assure you.
Well, I want to say like the back, there's charts and stuff for making like background for your own character, but there's no reason to think you can't use that for NPCs and stuff
absolutely.
too. So I like rolling on charts and like doing like little random things. Like there's that like what the bleep is my character or whatever.
Oh, that's we've put it in the link in the show notes. I'll put it in the show notes again because that is should I bring one up right now?
Sure. Okay, let's.
So
it's this what the F is my character, right?
I think so. It is and we will self-censor. It is who the F is my D&D character.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
.com.
Yeah. And it's just a little random thing.
Yep.
Somber dwarf bard from the Assassin's Guild who names every piece of their gear. I mean,
yeah, that's
right.
I would play that character.
Exactly. And some of them are like a little bit more ridiculous than others. So like,
but that would be a quick NPC right there. Yeah. Start bringing up another one.
I'm going to do one more.
And want me to read this one?
Sure.
You think your character's cool? My character's an effing wary dragonborn ranger from a very tiny province who can't read.
Oh, I can't read.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that. I mean, like just using a resource like this, just to give you a little bare bones thing. I was like, okay, this is an NPC. I'll build on it from there.
Sure.
Just get and then you just plop them into whatever adventure you're using. Maybe throw a few stats on there. Whatever.
Yeah. So if you want to make memorable NPCs, I think it's more going to matter. It's going to be less about how you statted them out and more about how you play them in the moment.
Yeah.
So I would focus if you are looking to, if that's your goal is to make memorable NPCs, focus more on like what they're going to do in the scene, how you want them to stand out. And, heck, a lot of it is just going to be what you think of right then and there.
Yeah. I'm always equating these sort of things to, I'm always equating these like questions and stuff like video games and everything. Like thinking of like Dark Souls, where a lot of the things that you're fighting in Dark Souls like can do the same things that you can.
Yeah.
Not in all cases. There's plenty of like monsters and stuff like that in the games, and then like most of the bosses are big hulking.
Especially in Dark Souls 2, like something like half the bosses are a big guy in armor with a shield.
Big hulking weirdos.
Yeah.
So like, I like the idea of a player character having all being like all the same things are available to a player character that are to like enemies and stuff like that. I like that. But then you get into like monsters and stuff like that. But then again, one of my favorite books was Savage Species, where it starts bringing into like player
monsters as PCs
and that sort of thing. And I like that stuff because I like having all those options and like because I like the monsters and the critters and stuff like that and trying to like figure out a way to make viable characters out of them.
Yeah.
Another game that comes to mind is Final Fantasy Tactics.
Good game.
Yeah, it is a really good game. It's like nothing specific to this game, but it's on my mind a lot just because it's one of my favorite games.
It's a good game.
Like you have your character, and then like you have the guys that you hire in.
Yeah.
To your party, and like you basically have like all the guys that you hire in have access to all the same stats and jobs and stuff like that. And then you have like story characters that join you temporarily, but then also can join you permanently. Right. And like some of them have a completely different stats. Like some of them access to completely different and like crazy powerful abilities and stuff like that. So like they're story characters that like they're unique and have access to abilities that nobody else could do.
Yeah. But then they do also have access to all the classes everybody else has.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. So, and then like there's ways to like mix and match them too.
Yeah.
That game is great. So like there is sort of a special thing to having like an NPC or something that does have like an ability, or at least a combination of abilities that aren't normally available to the players. Makes them a memorable, like, it's like if you're fighting against a wizard who has like who's casting like, and apparently he's a wizard. He looks like a wizard. He acts like a wizard, but he's casting spells from the Ranger's spell book and like the Cleric spell book, and he's got like access to all these other stuff, and you're like, how does he have both these spells? How does he have the healing spell?
If you were fighting if you were fighting an enemy that shot a magic missile at you and then cast Cure Light Wounds,
right?
Blew my mind right there.
Right. It's okay. It's like, that's, it might be, maybe it's multi-class, maybe not.
Maybe.
But, or he's also got a sword and shield. Like,
yeah.
So I guess in that way, like, yeah, you want to tailor your NPCs and their difficulty to the party that you're putting them against. So, because I don't know. Like half of me is like, man, that's sort of cheap that this thing I'm fighting is like has way more powerful stuff than I have access to.
Yeah.
Like I want to be able to do that. Like I want my character, the main character in Final Fantasy Tactics, to have that one move that I can never remember any of the characters' names.
Which move are you talking about? Talking about the Knight Sword. That Gafgarion has.
There you go. Yeah, the knight. So it's like, I think like the first battle he uses.
Oh
it.
yeah,
it's just
that's good.
What's that? I want that.
And well, in the PSP version, you can get that ability.
Oh yeah.
They added 2 more classes.
Oh, you're right.
And one of them gains those abilities.
Nice.
And anyway,
right.
But no, I totally agree. There is something that I think the game does lose a little bit by not giving the players all the options that enemies have, but that's just how D&D is built for.
Yeah.
You could make I'm sure you could make a version of D&D that isn't like that, but it would require a pretty fundamental change in how combat works and stuff. If the game was less about, we are the heroes that are going to persevere and win through every single encounter from here to the end of the campaign, if it was more about like, well, our characters are going to go through this one story and then maybe have other characters that go through another story. Maybe there will be a session where we play as the bad guys or something. If the game was more about smaller free-form stories, I think it would be much easier to make encounters that everybody is on an even playing field and not feel shoehorned into making it into the, enemies take damage and not deal it thing. But again, that's not really how D&D is built.
Sure.
So it would take a bit of work to change that. Would I love to play in that type of game? Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah, that sounds great to me.
But yeah, as it is, I think a lot of people have that idea in their head of like, this is the type of experience that I want to make, but they're using a system that is a bit counterintuitive.
Sure.
In that regard.
It's not to say that it's impossible, but
not at all.
It's trickier, I guess. Like there's a lot more self-balancing you have to do.
It would require you to go in with the mindset of, I need to change these things in order to make it work the way that I want.
Right. Kind of ties into the next question.
Sure.
This was from
Sam.
This one's from Sam the Dank.
Yep.
This was on Reddit. I wonder if he subscribes to our trees.
I don't know.
There's okay. He well, Sam could be a girl's name too. They ask, there's a player in my group that wants to create a lot of his own abilities. I think it might be getting out of hand. When comes the point when you say enough's enough and tell him to stick to the books?
Yeah.
So, like, making your own abilities, it's like it's a fun idea. I just like it's so tricky, and it is really easy to just get way ahead of yourself and start making stuff way too powerful or way too broken.
I feel like when I was a young fledgling DM, I was much more willing to say like, oh yeah, let's make a new ability.
Yeah.
And then over the years I learned like, oh wow, that's not a great idea all the time. I wish I had some of that like whimsy, some of that, you know, like those fresh eyes. That's like, yeah, let's try this. Mm-hmm. But I've grown up in, you know, an environment where I've seen that like, if you don't have a firm hand, things can get out of control.
Yeah.
And people are rarely willing to fix something after the fact if it does become too powerful. So I don't ever want to stifle someone's creativity, but I think the best advice I can give is to say enough is enough very, very early on.
Right.
However, say that's enough of that, but let's work together and find something that exists that does the same thing.
Right. Yeah. There's a good chance that the thing that they're trying to do does exist.
Yeah.
As someone who tries to build characters and put crazy combinations together, like it's sometimes not that easy.
Sure.
Like it was like, okay, this thing that I want to do does exist, but it exists like 13 levels into this obscure prestige class that has requirements that are way on the opposite side of where my character is already at.
Sure.
You know, that sort of thing.
Like here's an example. You mentioned in Final Fantasy Tactics, there's a character, Gafgarion. He's in the very first, like the intro battle, he has this super cool sword ability.
Yeah.
Where he swings his sword down, and then this weird, like...
Eye thing.
I never thought of it as an eye. This eye thing appears, this like redness drips down onto the enemy, and then like a blade of energy shoots up out of the ground into the eye through the enemy. Mm-hmm. And it does a bunch of damage, and then it drains health and gives it back to him.
Yeah.
You could make that ability in D&D with some slight tweaks.
Right.
If you had, let's say you had let's say your character was a necromancer or just a wizard or something.
Yep.
You could cast Vampiric Touch on the enemy. It would have a range of touch. His ability was like he could attack several squares away, but you could describe it. You could reflavor it to be exactly that ability.
Right. Yeah. Flavoring. And I mean, I guess I don't think that's not necessarily satisfactory for everybody.
Yeah.
Like some people want the actual stats, and they want it to be a different ability and have the physical stats that they could look at and stuff like that.
Here's what you do. You say, oh yeah, I heard somebody made this cool ability, and then you quickly scribble down the stats for Vampiric Touch.
Right.
But you describe it as Nightblade or Night Sword or whatever the heck that ability was called.
Yeah. Or, I mean, like, they want it to be more powerful. But, I mean, I guess in 5th edition, you just put it in a higher slot.
Yeah. It's a 4th level spell.
Right.
There you go.
So, yeah, like, I mean, like, yeah, but yeah, exactly. Use your imagination. Like, you're going to find some ability or something that is close enough to what they want to do stat-wise, and then they can just flavor it however.
Yeah.
And I guess there probably are some, like, I feel like there's people who don't like flavoring sometimes. Like, it's like, if it's not exactly how it says in the book, then that's not what you're casting, or some silliness like that.
There is so much you can get out of the game if you reskin stuff.
Yeah.
And so, like, yeah, I have seen people that are like, oh no, that's not what the spell does. It's like, but so what?
Well,
the mechanics are all there.
So I'm vaguely remembering... I don't remember exactly which campaign or whatever it was, but I basically wanted to make like an artificer sort of character or like a wizard, but instead of like casting spells, I wanted him to be doing it like it's like he's not casting spells, he's doing science, and then it just like the spell happens.
Oh, I see.
Like so like the mechanics are all the same, but flavor it like okay, like instead of a fireball, he has like a vial of some stuff, and he like basically like maybe he makes a Molotov cocktail in a way or something like that.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
Yeah, it's just like, I wanted to, do that, but it's like, does that fit the flavor of the campaign setting or whatever? It's like, is that necessarily how far can the flavoring go?
Yeah.
To make up for, not being able to like make up your own abilities. So it's like, okay, but like I want to be able to do this thing because I think it's cool because it's based on this like cool anime or something. Like how far can you go before enough is enough when it comes to flavoring?
I mean, that's going to vary. If you ask me, there is no enough.
Right.
As long as you're sticking to the mechanics,
yeah,
it becomes enough when everybody at the table is like looking at their watch, waiting for you to finish this description of this ability. Like, okay, I get it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I guess enough is enough with that, but like, that's more like that's gonna be more on your call, whoever's flavoring it, because like you could be describing the supernova ability from Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, that's a great example. But
all you're doing is casting like burning hands.
Yeah. There was one time when Jay ran the Shackled City campaign, my character was a wizard or sorcerer, I think. And there was this point where I was describing what my magic missile looked like. And Jay had to interrupt me. He was like, Gabe, everyone was just hit by a color spray and they are all blind. No one can see the magic missile. You don't need to describe what it looks like.
Oh my goodness.
So I would say in that case, I had gone a bit far.
There might be some other onlooker. Who knows?
Yeah.
Some invisible onlooker.
I mean, where enough is enough in the flavor regard. That's gonna depend entirely on the people and the group. The group, the campaign, the situation.
Yeah.
I would say DMs try to be. If you don't want a player to be constantly trying to make up new abilities.
Yeah.
At least let them reflavor stuff, because let them reflavor all they want. At least they're not trying to make up new abilities. All right. Just think of it that way. I would much rather a player spend 5 minutes describing what his magic missile looks like while everybody's blind than for him to be like, I want to make a new spell that's better than magic missile, but it's still the same level. It's a cantrip instead. Like I would rather.
Yeah. I could use this thing at will. And yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Like I guess I probably don't go too. I don't like to go too far with my flavoring, and I think I'm like that because I don't, when I play games, I don't like with when you have mods available.
Yeah, like Thomas the Tank Engine flying around and destroying Skyrim.
Okay, yeah, I was about to reference Skyrim, and I was like, wait, Thomas the Tank Engine? Oh, yep. Right. Yeah. So like games like Skyrim, where there's a ton of mods, but like when I play, I typically don't use them because I don't want to go too far.
Sure.
Like I don't like, there are plenty of mods that are mostly just like aesthetic and stuff like that, and that's fine. But ones that give you like extra abilities, or make you like level up faster or something like that. Like
sure.
I don't want to go too far with it.
Because you do want the experience that the developers wanted you to have.
Exactly. And like, and then once you kind of like overstep that, like once you go too far, it's hard to stop.
Yeah.
So like, when I play a game and I mod it, and then I get to that point where like, okay, like I'm basically just playing around in a sandbox at this point. Like I'm not playing a game. I'm more just, playing God or something.
Yeah. And to be fair, I don't really go overboard when I flavor my own stuff when I'm a player. I might flavor the heck out of stuff as a DM.
Right.
But I mean, heck, like I ran a encounter with an ogre, or it was an ogre and like an animated pillar, but it was stat wise, it was just an ochre jelly that split in two. And but as a player, like especially because I know that the DM probably doesn't have the same opinions on reflavoring that I do, I try not to go overboard, at least not without running by the DM first.
Yeah.
But so I think flavoring is a way to get a lot of what people want out of new abilities. If if a player wants an ability that just straight up their class just doesn't have,
Right.
I would be willing to let a player swap out an ability from another class of an ability of the same level, maybe, depending on what it is. I would do that before I let them just make up something new.
Sure. Yeah. If there is something close to what they want to do, but it is sort of out of their reach as far as what their character's class is,
like let's say
you could make a swap or something.
Yeah, let's say like they get they're like a 5th level fighter and they get an ability at that level. I don't even know what fighters get at 5th level, but if they get like a fighter ability at one level, I would look at the same level of rogue if they want and see like, well, what does that get? And if they wanted an ability that same level of rogue got, maybe, depending on what it was and the situation and how I felt they were, if I felt maybe they hadn't been using their character very effectively, maybe I would err more on the side of making them a little bit more powerful.
Yeah.
Or if I felt their character was already a beast in combat, I would probably try to just shut down any changes, but maybe err on the side of weakness.
Sure.
But yeah, so I would at least use other abilities the same level as a guide. Because let's say they want something that is similar to what a rogue would have.
Yeah.
Maybe look at that and then maybe change this thing, change that thing. Maybe just go off of strength instead of dexterity and so on.
Right. Yeah, because when you're going too far, that's when you're like making new classes.
Yeah.
And I don't. Spells.
I'm not trying to say that nobody should ever. I'm not trying to say nobody should make up new classes or spells. I think if you want to do it, fine. But like, if you're asking the question like when is enough, you're probably not fully equipped to deal with making up new stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like especially if you want this to be if this is going to be a one shot. Sure. I would say go ahead and let someone make up a new class.
That's the perfect time to do it because then
exactly
because if there's something wrong with it, okay, we were done anyway.
Yeah. But like if this is going to be a campaign that you want to go from 1st to 20th level, try not to let new stuff, especially not big new stuff like that. Because we've said before, like you can always just talk with them afterwards and try to change it back, but nobody's going to be happy with that. As maybe the best players will be a little bit more happy than others, but it's always going to be a little rough. I would say try to be firm at the beginning, like we're only going to be using this book, and this book. Then maybe at a later time say, hey guys, I've looked over this new book. You can start using options from this book and so on. Yeah. Maybe. But making new stuff, unless it is very, very heavily based on something that already exists, especially to the extent of reflavoring, if that's not the case, I would say try not to do it. Just my personal advice. If you want to do it, fine. Just be aware. Keep in mind that there's probably going to be repercussions, and you don't want it to spiral out of control like with this question.
Sure.
So yeah, I think creating new abilities is a neat idea, and I liked it when I was a new DM, but nowadays I wish I wasn't such a curmudgeon. But
I mean, just start flavoring stuff, I guess.
Yeah. Anyway, well, I think that'll do it for questions for today.
Okay.
But before we close out the episode, I want let's take a deep breath. Let's relax. Let's relax in this new gaming chair. Oh, and I forgot to mention, because I have this new gaming chair now, Jeff, you get to use my old chair.
Yeah, it's actually a problem because it's a lot comfier than the other chair I used to sit in, and so now I'm like leaning back, but then I'm like away from the microphone, so I kind of have to like turn the microphone in a little bit.
Well, if you ever want to go back to the old chair,
no,
it is. It's there in the corner, looking all sad.
Aww.
So let's relax in our comfy chairs. And let's toss another log onto the funeral pyre. So this is another short one. This one is from Ryan on Facebook. And Ryan says, medicine check, critical fail.
Oh, no.
That's all the explanation you need right there.
Oh, jeez. Yes. That's rough.
Yeah. So man, I mean, I've never been in that situation, but I feel for you.
Right.
I feel for you.
All right.
So let us raise a glass in memory of our unlucky patient.
Yeah.
Clink. So that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the Funeral Pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, a running list of questions asked, and important links, go to interpartyconflict.com. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/interpartyconflict, or our subreddit at reddit.com/r/interpartyconflict, where I post weekly discussion questions for you. We're also on Twitter at InPartyConflict. Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. We recently started a Patreon, so check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. There's a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better. And you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, you want to tell us about FriendQuest?
FriendQuest is our YouTube channel where we have a couple games that we played, D&D games. Trying to find more time to play more, and even myself trying to like just do a couple by myself. And I either don't have time for it, or like when I go to record it, it's so tough recording by myself, like talking to myself basically.
There was one time I started playing, it was like Legend of Dungeon, I think, some roguelike dungeon crawler.
Yeah.
And I was like working really hard to like be constantly talking or something. And then when I got done, it was my first time ever playing the game. So it was all like my first experiences. And then when I got done recording, I realized I wasn't recording I like not recorded the audio or something.
Oh, no.
It's like, well, what was the point?
Yeah. Like there'd be plenty of times where like I'll start recording something and like I'll get a little bit in and I'm like, I'm not feeling it. And then I look over and I hadn't even started recording the video. Like the audio was recording with the video as I'm like,
sure.
Well, that answers that. So So someday.
We're busy people. We hope you all understand.
Yeah.
So you can also head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show, what you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So Jeff, until next time.
Dang it.